Right.
before you were a twinkle in my eye.
Yes, back when I would have been, my parents would have been perceived as black radicals, those crazy Panthers.
Oh, goes till 12, right? Yep. Yeah. I'm on this social justice committee. I gotta run. I'm trying to create my place to get them more ecologically friendly. I'm fighting that. There are ways. I'm also on the board of the Eureka Recycling, which is zero waste. If you want to make copies of something, I don't know if you're going to want to do the exercise, and I have these exercises just in case. Go that far. Yes, I work for a company called Right Management. Okay. As well, and they would provide operational services to executives. So we provide both career management as well as talent management to companies. They contract directly with companies, so individuals that come. It is short, yes, yes, as opposed to coming from St. Paul all the way to. Flexibility to make the man's schedule, so. Yes, yes. Spoken to Andre about CEU's, for his, what he does, diversity training in other areas and curriculum. 3 years ago, so this is sort of, I think, an offshoot of that. Partnership with them. Director of some of the presentations that I do for my networking group for executives. So I have executive topics that are new to them. Yes, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and these 2 speakers are sort of mainstream, very well known, sort of public, from the earth, so public television, YouTube. Yeah. Right, right, right. Yeah,
It all comes down to the.
Well, as for an example, you know, just the obvious cases, you can't change that you're on Mars. All right, so our Mars, now what? Oh, I wish I was about on Mars, so. Give up and yes, Andre is going to be here. It sounds like another. I just thought since you were mentioned that we do individual session and now the full presentation. So. Right. Topic I would. Session for my nonverbal language as opposed to, so it is the big. Power poses and stuff like that. Yeah, so, interesting discussion about people in the room. And some of it is gender affected, but how do you use space in the room? Usually people in powerful positions will use up more space as opposed to folks who do not feel powerful will shrink in space, use less space. Her story is amazing, and then she's overcome a head injury or an accident, and now she's international speaker with all these power walk into the interview and you do your power pose, you know, I'm here.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, they've done all sorts of studies on people who win races and what's their pose after they win races. The hands go out, they use more space, yeah. Nonverbal. Why do a little session on nonverbal? Cuddy as an example on her power poses. another top person on, the TED Talk type thing. TED Talks and, but yeah, she talked about, if you look at people who win, races and stuff like that, they take up power poses, and people in power usually take up more space. So if you're in a room, usually that, and then some of it's gender, but the person who sits back like that is more of a power position as opposed to talk today about how they looked at it and said, "Oh my God, this doesn't look good. It's a rocket ship." I don't want to be here. Pardon me?
I said the classes go look about the same.
Oh, okay, so,
A little bit of art.
well, I haven't been here for many years. I was here when they were first building out part of this place with classes with Bill. It worked for me for years. Okay, so I'm gonna get going. Caring innovator. I heard on topic of the ethic of care, actually the whole relationship between the caregiver, educator, and the person receiving the education. Theory that there's a growth process that goes on. So something I believe in, something here, as an educator, is very exciting. I have my career management, public career management, doing that for 2.5 years. And actually, prior to that, I was president of the Art Institute National Culinary School. We went our separate ways, and I was in transition. And then the position opened up at Art Management Institute Council executives who were looking to change their careers or who were separated from their business. So I helped them with branding and research, their social profile. I also am on the board, chairman of the board of nonprofit organization which believes in zero waste, non-edible. Also a producer and has responsibility. Producers should look at what their packaging is and look at like, the burner, which is burning, actually encouraging waste to energy is not the process, but it is touting that as a waste-free process. Here in Minneapolis, as well as preparation in Washington. Social worker, oh, and also I am a storage unit tycoon. I have a full library storage. Units for people in their life, where I breathe these. And do all sorts of other things. So I was a business owner, so when I do counsel, so I always believe that you demonstrate, like you're a demonstrate zero waste, demonstrate what you do. So when I talk to executives, I can demonstrate how to bring them, how to change careers or connect the dots. Using what you have and then creating something out of it. Sir?
Yeah, so, I will say that, in that format, so, in my career, certainly in so I also am kind of a graphic designer, so, I like,
What do you hope to get out of this session, Brandon?
well, I hope to get a real hands-on sense of, so there are areas in my professional, where, like, Lisa, so I'm looking for more tools and more so that, I'm not trying to understand myself the same way, so exactly.
Hopefully we will do that. And actually, Sean A. Carr in his walking video talked about success and how success can be will treadmill as well. Like, he set it up in 5-year view. Actually talked about that a little bit. Trying to do some reconditioning of people when they come into my office. Because, they're being having a title. program or?
No, I'm.
Okay. Work with me, volunteered at the Emory program for a number of years. So, you know, politics or, you know, song. She made the shift from, she worked for me as a director and then also then into the nonprofit sector. Working for Youth Link. I guess a housekeeping question. Will Sarah have, will we be able to go on a computer to just take a break? There's, Barbara Fredrickson has a positivity ratio test that you can take online and print. That's part of this as well. It's great. Exercise to do, so maybe we'll navigate that and do that as well. I guess, is this a clicker for?
Yeah.
Down?
Color goes with which.
Question? So, just so you know, the hair on my lip is because it's Movember. Movember is a month where people grow mustaches to start talking about male health, actually. And guys don't always feel comfortable talking about cancer, their own health, mental health. So Movember started in Australia a number of years ago and has migrated here. So I had my own site for a number of years and did stuff at the Art Institute, but now at Right Management or Manpower, where I work, I created another team called Experis Right Power. So you can be a model brother, no sister. And so raising money for awareness of part of that profession health. So very much that. Yes. And awareness and so.
The
Yeah, but,
motion in November.
right. Yeah, I'm a purist. I do the mustache thing. Shave first and then have to grow it, you know, as opposed to people who start growing it as a mustache. They just go, well, I'm a real man because I can in a day. You know, okay, whatever. Okay, getting unstuck. So I hope to really, if we have time to do everything, talk about the science behind positivity, and actually talking about training your brain to be positive. And through the training of your brain, it has a number of chemical reactions that are positive in terms of health, blood pressure, some other besides being pleasant to your health. But there are also actually some science behind physical changes that go on when you are positive and you are thinking positive things. Two of the speakers that I'm going to highlight here positivity ratio, and how we get stuck thinking negative things throughout the day, and then we actually have a higher ratio of non-positive thoughts. So how do you change that? And it'll be sort of interesting in the self-assessment that we'll do. We'll see how positive you are, and then your task will be to try to change that. And then Sean Acor, who's sort of a Harvard-trained person who talks about training your brain to be positive and some other element in how this culture is not encourage positivity, but how you can train your brain to be positive and how that also has physical changes. And we actually will talk about some activities you can do to begin that process. And then I link it, what I've done is link that to career development and controlling what you can control. And similar to our discussion on Martian, if you can't control that, you're on Mars, right? You know, so as much as you wish you weren't on Mars, actually, Marcia Piercy, the author, wrote a book called Woman on the Edge of Time, and then she actually time travels in her mind, so she does it before reality by going into the utopian world in her mind, but it really doesn't change the abusive relationship that she's in, or her social economic status. So it's an interesting book, and she's also poetry. So, getting unstuck using positivity. Great. So, she's Barbara Fredrickson. On your slide, so you have this, and she basically suggests that positive emotions make us more resilient to setbacks, improve our relationships, and may even change our biological makeup. So, the key to her. And this is a YouTube video on her, actually, in her own words, discussing that. So hopefully I can do this. Anything with the screen?
Yeah. Go over it.
To a really good, thumbnail description of positive emotions. And what I turn down to is offering a history. What positive emotions do to the mind and how they change us, but be a little more specific. Positive emotions do to you in our lives. And I think we actually are looking at my research with myself is that a ratio of positive emotions above 1 will help determine your positive and one of the things I appreciate about positivity ratio, heartfelt positive emotions that opens up every husband. Not So the water line is, low and negative. Follow the words yet. Negativity. One time when I shared this metaphor with an audience, that and when it feels like the most is when you're standing up. All of this comes out. My own body, constant, we all know that sometimes a little too much. Positive psychology is that people feel this hyper feel positive in a way that's not that I really don't face. It's so beautiful. So how is it that we get this positive emotions that all into the Pollyanna denial of the yellow smiley face? One of the things that I think is very useful, helping the mindset of positivity and positive emotions itself is what the mindset of positive emotions. And from that, above all being real, from that positive emotions. Now, some of these take a moment to mind open as a way to work. Worrying about the future, thinking about the past, that will completely because our worries and our concerns are so vivid almost every right now, right in this moment, is everybody has this bars, just a completely so small, but when we're open to our spirit, wrong something wrong, and along with
You'll have that URL.
aren't anywhere above this. But I suggest that, knowing one day probably get a sense of what the life is like right now. And then as you make changes in your life, um, more opportunities to be grateful, or you start a meditation practice, or start volunteering and giving, and then track the positivity ratio and see that and see how that makes a difference in your life. As just as nutritionists will ask people to keep track of their activities and how to take mindful of eating their health. Close with my take on that. One evening, an old charity told his grandson about his on his side. Others, love. He thought about it for a minute. Someone
So what do you think? Um, it is amazing. Andre and I were training many years ago by a specific institute, late Lou Tice, who's a high school football coach, and he talked about the negative wizards, how we always remember the negative academics, and we think about those people who squashed us, as opposed to those people who uplifted us. Easier to remember those negative things. Maybe it's because our society doesn't have many initiation rates as well to overcome obstacles in a way. Some of that is bias as well. Structural bias that's built in, and certain people will take certain tracks. So it's sort of an interesting, the whole executive. Well, I don't like bragging as opposed to advocating for yourself. So it's sort of an interesting way we downplay some of those things and how we look at being positive or talking about your attributes or the value you bring as a negative. That could be a positive. And even the executives, when they talk about badly successful, many don't talk about how they're successful because of themselves and because of their attitude and their drive and other things. So when they get into interviews, they no longer have that title behind them. They're sort of stripped away, almost naked, but yet can't talk about their successes in the future. And I love that piece of be real, be authentic. People know that, and especially the case in an interview as well. Or you don't know an answer to an interview question and you try to fake it. It's obvious that it's supposed to be. So what did they say? Yeah. The other piece about being open, it reminded me of a client of mine used a sort of a religious parable. There's a parable flood. Are rising and they move up to the next level of the house, and finally they're on the roof and the water is flowing, and then so they pray to God, save them. Of course, and things are floating, big logs and other pieces of houses and maybe some other things are floating by them. And they're still out there and they say, God, why didn't you help me? And then God turned, came down and said, oh, I sent you a floating log. I sent you these other things you could have gotten off and taken them. You just didn't recognize it. You were not open to those opportunities, which looked very past you. So it's an interesting when you talk about people. Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, and part of the theme is Barbara Fredrickson and then Andre. I can always send you a PowerPoint if you want to share the PowerPoint. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, we can do our introductions again. Okay. And welcome, and happy to have you. And again, my name is Jeff Allen, and I am the facilitator today. And I'm also a career management consultant with Career Management. I help executives find their next great opportunity after things that are on the you. On the social justice committee for my temple and as well as a high school. Remember, there are bees and honeybees, and there are also wasps and yellow jackets, and which are not. Like honeybees, bumblebees are like honeybees, except they're in smaller colonies. Right, right. Bees do a wonderful thing. They'll find this nectar flow where flowers are, and they'll come back to the hive and let everyone else know. And share their wealth of food you cook. And that's their success, the hive will thrive. So it's a great are awake and live in the winter. They're unhappy about it. They're not native to the U.S. and they keep the queen warm at 98 degrees throughout the winter. Darren? Great. And something just, again, I also have a certificate in executive fundraising from part of how I recreated myself in the nonprofit sector. Hearing, and I'm actually on a panel at the Women in Leadership Conference in Hamlin, University, next Friday. So, talking about how to move, take your skills and connect them to possible careers as well. Very crucial. Talking about policy, getting development, other things we can change the world. Help people take those attributes, connect them, and then use that and leverage those skills. Yeah, yeah. Well, it's like, getting, stuck on a certain image and not seeing what you're looking at. That exercise before is that you don't let the air yeah. But anyway, well, so we talked about Barbara Fredrickson, who is a positivity scientist. She gave a talk and she talked about the positivity ratio of 3-to-1 and how she believes that is a tipping point. Thinking about 3 positive things to 1 negative thing. That is takes 10 positive thoughts. These are positive thoughts and appreciating, and she talked about living in the now, being authentic, not being Pollyanna. Negativity is important, so it's not like you shun negativity. That's okay, negative things happen. Stuff
Oh, we're not, so now try it.
Okay. So, we talk about how positivity can influence the job search as well. We talk about being able to see things and be open to things as they come your way. Executives, many times, even before their discussion with a company or people, they maybe eliminated the possibility. And for me, we'll talk a little bit about networking, and some people think about networking as like accumulating, but I call it sometimes LinkedIn. You find those connection collectors, like connections that lead nowhere. And I talk about now networking really is about richness of relationships, quality, not quantity. It's about learning, it's about building relationships, and it's about being positive as well, and learning how to learn more in a way, and that's all about. We have take a positivity test. We're going to take a break now. Go to great. Right, sure, sure. You falling asleep from my?
No, no, no.
No, I'm a coffee drinker, yeah, yeah. It's a lot of coffee. It's a lot of it. One of the things about my office over there is, you visited me once there, yeah, yeah. Is that actually coffee? Networking with people, it's just a lot of coffee. And so you need, if you, and you can go in and take it again and again, your exercises, if you choose to do this, if that changes. Yeah, and I think it can be relative to, sometimes when you take assessments or whether they're SWOT or some other personality assessments, and where you are involved as well, position. I mean,
I like the fact that they do that.
so how did, how was your positivity? Thank you. I keep going, yeah.
Yeah.
It's about you. my president, so I'm gonna a very negative thing to do. So a chart, negativity tends to be personal. Positive tends to be more general or objective. Permanent, long lasting, positivity tends to be more fleeting. Feel good. Shorter amount of time, but when it's negative, it seems to last a little longer. So, but Barbara, the key here as well is knowing that that there is a positive impact to increasing your ratio. And there's been a lot of studies done on your physical health, on your resistance in your immune system, blood pressure, greater effectiveness when you're feeling more positive, you're not as distracted, you're in the present, in the moment. So if you are, regardless, it's not to eliminate again, it's to increase positivity. You're not dwelling on, it's sort of interesting, it's sort of, again, we go back to some of the training we've had together. It's like when you're in a skid, you don't look to the wall where you're heading, you look where you want to go. To get out of the skid. So you think about where do you want to go, and that's why you focus on the positive. Activities around thinking, appreciating the moment, as opposed to thinking about, oh God, I want negativity. So you're not focusing on negativity, you think, oh, let's try to appreciate things. And Sean Achor would be very clear on that. But there's so much research done on blood pressure, on the immune system, on brain activity as well, when you are thinking those thoughts as well, and appreciating it. So being positive equals success. And we talk about, and again, part of this is my networking group, and that what pushes you forward to be successful is what are you striving for? To think about those things, and are you infusing positivity in your actions as well? And I always say, make your grass greener right here, right now. As opposed to thinking, oh, it'd be better if I just go somewhere, or I have this, or I accumulate that conspicuous consumption, or as well, or I live somewhere else, or, as well. So it's a matter of living in the present and making the present better. As opposed to, some important fertilizer on there without the neighbors, Yeah. And I'm sorry, you got the right order, as well, but anyway, so networking, when we think about networking, as well, which is the next part of this, is that you need to think about what's in your control. And that's part of the positivity, and when I talk about people, when the things come to mind when you think about what's in your control in your career search. So what is in your, so if you're looking for a new career, what's in your control? No, no, no. I mean, and I think the fact that you're here today, you could have chose, or, said, oh, okay, got a million things going on, I'm not gonna do it, but you were able to control and take an action. Right, right. It could have been very easy, but you made it happen. Yeah, exactly. Um, what are some things that you can control? Yes. You can control. You also can't control whether someone gets back to you. And many times we will personalize it. They don't want to get back to you. Because many times it's not because of you. It's because they're busy, something else happened, sometimes the job is posted, the job called back, or there are many different things that you can't control. What you can control is, going to the interview and present yourself, taking action, reaching out to people as well, and as opposed to focusing on things you can't control. Their budgets and other things. So they're at the end of the quarter, and I hear people many times talk about policy. Die down if you die down, and you don't pursue things and don't reach out to people. In my experience, people are setting up their budgets for the coming year and interview processes will take months. Screening, hiring manager, and the team, and the peers, and back to the HR. It's like all of a sudden it's like gone. You can't control that process. You can control how you interact within that as well. So, also with networking, you can't always control whether people, you reach out to a good friend you thought, and then they don't get back to you. But it might not because you, it's because they're busy or they got stuff going on. They want your email. So although I fall into the habit, sometimes I get snippy with someone the other day because they kept on reaching out and said, "Oh, let's get together." I said, "Okay, well, how about this?" And I didn't hear from them. So I said, "Obviously, you're unable to get together personally. So let's try a phone call." Oh, way, events. I could have controlled it, not that snippy. Emotion. Right. We talked about that. Yeah, we talked about negative. We talked about negative wizards in our life. People can say things to us. It takes the heart. As opposed to just taking it as information, saying, "Oh, well, that's their perception. Let me take my own assessments of that, and if I need to be better, I'll work harder. It's something that's meaningful as well." Where does attitude and preparation fit in all this?
along, I, or anything.
Right, right, right. Yeah, in preparation as well will allow for a little more success or also creating your log. There's two things, two thoughts that I have. One is as I was searching through some of the YouTube videos, there's named Wooden, the famous UCLA coach in basketball. He talked about his teams or something like that. Are you better than this team or this team better than this? He goes, really, it's not a matter of teams compared to each other. It's a matter of each person. Competition is really with themselves. Interesting. He said some of the best players are those that he thought, oh my God, they're going to be terrible, and they wind up being stars because they're the ones that grew and they weren't competing with someone else. They were just trying to be the best they could be. Creating your own luck and preparation and attitude. I always tell people in their job search and their networking to create spreadsheets of their contacts. As you're in your search and you're meeting people, keep track of those people, so you're in the dates that you talk to them and some of your action items, and then look at those dates and follow up. If you don't do follow up, if you're not reconnecting with them and sustaining those relationships, you're not going to create those situations when you are in the right place at the right time. So you're really creating the probability of the thing by doing the preparation and doing the work. In this case, networking, and keeping track of those contacts. Otherwise, what happens is, God, let's just talk to them in like 5 months, things might go really bad, you know. But if you're methodical and set out a plan with goals, then that you will be creating your own life. Or even the preparation as to, yes, you took that class, looking them up in LinkedIn, seeing what they were doing today, and say, oh, looks like you really used the information, and you know, here, tell me a little bit more about what you're doing, you know, and workshop or a prayer or volunteer activity and stuff. So you've done the preparation, which is crucial to any networking meeting, really, when you're meeting with someone on a career, is to do the preparation, to learn about them, what they're doing, so you have key things in the conversation. So you're showing your organization. Yeah, networking and positive intelligence. So, you do this now. Yeah. So what I do is, as a thumbs up. Just have a button to. So it's the two, one finger. Uh, It's about 10 minutes or 8 minutes. He was older than my sister at the time. Play war. know, because
Man,
I didn't get to give you my chair.
you're doing it.
Everything that
Yeah, but there is science behind it, so you can do those things, the journaling, the three things to identify, exercise, of course, as well, and the positive, email to someone who's done something well, just acknowledging that. We call that sometimes in networking random acts, or here we call them random acts of kindness. When you're networking, I usually say there's the fourth thing that you do is ask someone how you can help them. When you're networking with someone and you're meeting maybe on about a position or about openings or they always want to help you. They know you're in transition, but you can turn that around. It's like I'm okay and you're okay. You're not just okay. I'm okay with this. Is you could say, can I help you with something? And it usually evens the playing field and changes the relationship as well. And you can because you have all these skills, whether it's communication, whether it's contact, resources, advice. You can always help someone, and they think about it. You might even suggest something. Oh, I know you're interested in this. Here's an idea, or here's something I ran across as a tool that would be helpful to you. It's amazing how that changes things and how that also makes you feel. So when I talk to people about networking, again, they're like, oh, I'm not good at that. Well, I'm not in my comfort zone. Meeting people. So it just changed. But when they realize it's about relationships and rekindling relationships that you do, it's like when I was in, transition as well. I reached out to Andre and said, Andre, long time. And he's like, oh, I remember you. No, what he was. um, but it changed, and now our relationship has continued from there was this long hiatus, a number of years as well, and it's come to fruition, and some other things have happened. So it's just amazing how those things have an impact. So it'll be interesting to do some of those activities and then take that positivity ratio to see after 21 days if there is a change in that, as well. So. he also spoke about reliving that moment, and reliving that joy by reflecting on your child is writhing on the floor, throwing me a tantrum. You try to relive that moment when you, those good moments. Right, one, right, so you're not focusing on the mess of the day, you're focusing on that moment. That was nice, whether it's this guy or a relationship or a friend, or I got a, you know, a phone call from someone who was very dear to me, and that was really nice. It's that one thing, so it's not a real hard assignment. You know what I mean? It's not like, let's have 10 things. I can't think of 10 things. One thing. You tend to dwell on that a little longer. You know, push it in a way. There's an old William Blake, who's a poet, who wrote epic poetry from England. He talked about how the creator of the world had to shrink the world in order to create things. So when you're thinking about these positive things, it's pushing away some of the others, it's occupying more space in your emotions and yourself. And it's not creating as much room for those other things, you know, negative things. So that's interesting. Thought. Obviously, you know, this comes if you are positive and look at networking, you know, because people tend to not look forward to networking and talking about possible positions with other people. And that coffee, this is a good thing when you think about it as, oh, meeting people, developing relationships, maybe helping someone as well. It changes your perspective on what the networking is. And technically, you know, I tell people that networking is not just when you're in transition. You should be networking while you're in the company or in an organization as well, and not necessarily be content because things can always change. You know, even, but if you're managing up or you're networking, you're not in a situation where you're stuck. So by looking at networking as a positive thing and not a negative thing, it changes. If it's learning, if it's developing relationships, it's helping. That's pretty exciting as opposed to looking for a job.
Or for the career.
about relationships, really, and you know, in some of Sean's work and well, Fredericton's work, it talks about those people that are social and have richer relationships are healthier physically and actually live longer. And that's why there's some data on people who are, you know, communal groups as well. And those relationships actually they do live longer and are healthier physically. So it is about not just networking. If I talk to a salesperson about networking, you know, and I've done that, I said, so what's the successful networking mean? Well, getting more contacts. You know, sort of that what I call conspicuous consumption of context. So, but it's really about relationships. If you're going to walk away with the intent of, oh, I just met another human being, and I can help them, or they're helping me, and we develop that relationship. It's like the work I've done on the ethic of the relationship between teacher and students, and that both as well. Then it's all those meetings are successful. You know, it's all a success. I think we talked about a little bit how we could recognize what we are thankful for. You know, by actually taking time in your day, making an effort. And what can we control about our career search efforts? We can control our actions. Yes. I take a little bit of a different approach as opposed to selling. I look at it more like imprinting in a way, or developing a relationship. So, or onboarding. Talk about onboarding. That you're really making a connection between people in the organization and yourself. And if you're able to make that connection, and they make the connection to you, you're gonna be successful. So many times I have people are so caught up in knowing all the answers and very robotic about making sure they have all in there, beat themselves up if they answered the question wrong. And it's about being authentic, real, and that person, because everyone's got these resumes that look very similar. All, you know, graduated with the same degrees and everything else, but really what I used to call the X factor, you know, when I'm leading groups, how do you focus on the connection between the people that you're interviewing with and relating to them, and then that will separate you and actually have more of an imprint on them and you and them, and you'll be able to say, well, God, you know, it didn't feel so good, you know. And they're talking about always being in crisis, and they don't know how to work or whatever. You know, you can tell when it's a toxic environment, even in nonprofits as well. There are many nonprofits that are very toxic, and there are many that are. You can tell that by your connection with people. They're able to connect with you. They're hunkered down into the silos. So it's less about selling yourself in a way, and about selling you. It's more like, yeah, it's a good fit and connecting with the people that you're talking to. So again, you're dialoguing and talking to them, and not focusing on, let me sell them my skill. Because, yeah. Yeah, right, there's a good relationship, right, like dating, you know, in a way, you know. So this is something I talk about, actually the slide belongs higher up, but you should check periodically, see how you're feeling, your perceptions, whether you're pessimistic or optimistic. Again, here's the difficulty is that optimism can be impersonal, temporary, and limited, you know, so you have to keep on checking. like exercise, you know. If I don't exercise every day, my metabolism changes and I have trouble, because I still like to eat and do other things. And so these are ways to look at how you look at your attitude towards life events, in that funnel. Elements you can control in your career search, again, preparation, crucial. Do the research, learn about the companies, learn about the people, network and communication, execute value-added relationship building. So it's not just meeting a person, it's how you can help them, or how they can work together in some way. And many times it might not, you might have a good organization that doesn't have an opening, but you sustain that relationship through your positivity and through the relationship, through helping them in some way. And then when there is an opportunity, it's like creating your luck. You're there at the right spot because, oh, you don't have an opening, see you later. You know, no, I really do like this organization. I think what you stand for. I just want to, want to help. Correct. Strengthen it, and then yeah. Mm-hmm. And the follow up is crucial. So preparation and networking is about research. Have a script. Don't try to wing it. Nice. Practice with somebody for a meeting, somebody live or on the phone. Sometimes it's good just to practice. It could be a significant other, it could be a friend. Oh, let's practice my. We probably don't have time for stuff. I'm going to give you some materials on branding, how to brand yourself, the value. So how to practice your what I call your 90-second commercial, your branding statement. Like when companies or in an interview and they say, "Oh, tell me about yourself," knowing how not to go on too long about everything, giving them the story before giving them a teaser about the value you bring and be future thinking, not what you've done, but if you do your research, you can talk about how you can help them. And your attitude will contribute in that. So everything's future thinking. You're almost like talking like you're part of the organization. Here's what I can help you with. You've probably seen that more often than not because selling diversity, and cultural change is not an easy process. Yeah, no, it's crucial to do, and especially we can go on about boards and what I've actually done with a couple of boards, what they give them between boards and staff and organization. What that do is to incorporate some of the founders back on the board. But there wasn't that structural excuse to have the schism. And then to build a collaborative model and actually members of the board who had that separation actually left the board because it's not what they wanted. It's changed because now we were able to say in our planning process, and we used Humphrey Diamond, that we were going to laugh together, we're going to cry together, and we're going to celebrate together. I've always said that, and with my group, so we've been successful in doing that. So again, it's changing the perception of what we do and being positive as opposed to other things. So you do have to adopt the stage persona, and I think it's being authentic and positive. Act as if you're there and you're going to help out, and use passionate language. Just don't probably answer those questions. And have a story to tell. Catherine talks about telling your story, and I think that's powerful. you're talking about branding and you're talking about outcomes, use stories, because we as humans, have told stories and actually learn through stories and relate to each other as stories, whether they're sitting around the fire stories about creation stories, which really are not about creation and where the world came from, but it's really about commentary on how we should live our lives and the ethics. But it's told in stories. So we actually relate quite well when we are able to describe how we can help through a story, for example, so to speak. Use your skills, do effective follow-up, and again, these are best practice. Use email effectively, not as a way of avoiding people. I told people many times, call someone. But email is good to lay the groundwork. It's a tool. I've told people get up away from the computer, do researching opportunities, and actually talk to people. People get stuck in terms of their job search, researching jobs, and many times these jobs that are on Indeed or Monster or wherever, even LinkedIn are built by the time they hit the job board. So you're focusing on those. So I tell people to use those as research into companies you might be interested in, and then know what you want. Tell the person. People need to know how they can help you. You have to be clear. That was a mistake I made early on. Give an assignment. Don't be satisfied with I'll keep you in mind. Help me, connect me, and do this for me. Do you know anyone in that company? If you can you make an introduction and follow up with them because they forget. And then ask how you can help them. And practice, practice, practice. Again, going back to the happiness advantage, take stock in what you can control. You can't control whether people get back to you or not. Act enthusiastically, be real, add value to yourself. Do something different to add value to yourself. This is something in transition that people, I think, is very important. It could be volunteering. It could be taking a class. It could be learning. It could be doing a MOOC. That could be coming here, obviously. So those are important things that change you and add value to yourself. And then I guess the question moving forward is, what will you do to use positive intelligence to create positivity? I can ask you what to do. I'm just going to have you reflect on that as your action item to use as you're looking in your career search or as you're interacting with people. Think about how you can create positivity as well within yourself. Yes. Mm-hmm. So what I have here for you as a take item, I made them for you. So here's a little branding worksheet. Let me, we have a couple of staples over here. What you have here is just some questions, and again, these are tools that we use for you. As part of your branding worksheet, hopefully from that emerges your 90-second commercial. There are some examples there, and these are just hard for concrete career search tools, since that's part of what we're doing. Part of again being unstuck is to do the preparation and doing the work. As well. So I think it's pretty self-evident. So when you were talking about your personal, many times you'll be doing it in a career change. So this becomes really important if you're trying to help connect the dots. And if you are into communications, I'm a communicator, and again, I'm using could talk about the communicator, connector, with expertise in hospitality, the industry, et cetera. And key strengths are listening to people, connecting, articulating, talking, do all those strengths, and then connecting them to, possibly an organization. So, to think about those things. I have another tool, another takeaway, and I'm giving away the house here. Okay. It's a sort of, it clarifies your interests and passions, possibly. So again, this is a tool that will allow you to identify industries, allow you to identify roles. And many times what happens is people will look at a role within an organization and it might not fit within what they want to do or their passion. Or, they just take it for whatever reason. Job. They need a job, so I'm taking a job. If that's going to be your focus, then that's what you're going to get. Right. But if you're going to create, and we've talked about affirmations and values and setting that bar. I mean, you can do temporary things. I talk to people about building a portfolio in order to lead to something else. And it will, but you need to keep your aim needs to keep targeted towards your goal and passion as well. Right. And ideally, if you can weave in your questions as part of the interview process, it becomes more of a dialogue. So, some of the questions at the end could be, what does success look like? But as you're talking to them about situations that they might ask you about a situation, you come up with a remedy or something that you've done that's been successful, and then your question could be, have you ever run a how have others addressed it? Or has there ever been a miscommunication, a misperception about culture? How did you handle it? You'll get that sometimes. Or, well, we just didn't address it. We never got back. But it helps you learn, and then you have a discussion. Wow, a way I've handled that is through this story. And many times good questions at the end are, what does success look like? What's your goal in 5 years? You in a way, and that's something that's very helpful. What do you want to be? If you know an organization that's in transition, what do you want to be?
It's so important to me. Sometimes, like,
always use examples like, you're not gonna create peace in the Middle East, so you're not gonna be able to control what the Fed does. But you can control whether you turn on and off. You can control whether you listen to something, or you can control the do. So there are things within your control. And there are things that are outside your control. But you're taking your pulse and you're finding yourself with an attitude or feeling sort of bad. You know, you're aware of your feelings, then you can take those actions. Say, okay, enough education.
Yeah.
I got, you know. I'm on Facebook.
Well, how do you use it?
You have control